So how did you, as a psychiatrist, get introduced to this alternate world of consciousness?
Well, that can be a long story. I'll try to make it short. As part of my psychiatry training, I was doing psychotherapy on people, but I wasn't terribly convinced it actually worked all that well. So I figured I had an ethical obligation to try it for myself, and I had the very good fortune of going into therapy with a truly remarkable therapist, a man who was exquisitely attuned to his own inner experience and therefore to mine. And he literally taught me to access the inner realm or inner world of experiences, the emotions, the subtle images, the intuitions that I hadn't been able to do until then. And he literally helped me realize that there's an inner universe as vast and mysterious as the outer, but I'd been totally out of touch with it all my life. And as I looked around the world and our culture, it seemed like almost everyone else was out of touch with their own inner world too. And so I gradually came to realize that we have an enormous array of capacities, psychological, spiritual, intuitive capacities that are virtually untapped. And that though we're beginning to access those with Western psychologies and psychotherapies, it turns out that the world's spiritual traditions, the contemplative practices, the meditations, yoga, contemplative disciplines of the world's great religions are basically strategies or techniques or technologies or arts for enabling us to access our inner experience, to cultivate our minds and hearts so as to foster the qualities and capacities that the great founders and saints and sages of these traditions discovered for themselves. Once I realized how profound the contemplative depths of the world's religions are, then for me it was a 180 degrees, because up until then I'd assumed religions were the opiate of the masses. Shamanism is the first tradition that humankind seemed to develop to access the inner world and to bring forth some of the experiences and capacities that can be developed. Well, clearly one of the remarkable transformations of our time, particularly in the West, is that we have an influx of spiritual traditions and practices from all around the world. So we were seeing a dramatic transformation, both of the world's spiritual traditions and of the West, as these different spiritual practices are introduced and even assimilated into our culture. Shamanism is one of those, and it's being transformed too in various ways. There are various ways in which shamanic practices are being used and incorporated, sometimes broadly called neo-shamanism. Clearly, these practices have proved valuable for human beings for thousands of years, and they're proving valuable for lots of people now. The fact that shamanic experiences can be elicited for most people very quickly is one of the things that certainly makes it attractive, and people can have very dramatic, powerful, and beneficial experiences often quite quickly.